Hello, I'm Jorge Timon. I'm an engineer at Blockstream, and I'm gonna talk about the liquid. But first, a little bit about elements. So yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about. First, what they are, why do we create them, and then a little bit more detail into how it works. So what is Elements? Elements is a free software project based on Bitcoin Core. It's a fork of Bitcoin Core, and we periodically rebase on top of it to get all the new stuff that many people are working on. But there's some differences. So the goal of Elements is that people can create their own blockchains. Like, for example, we're using it to create Liquid. So some of the difference are the proof of work is replaced with signed blocks, which is basically a script, the same as in transactions. So it can be anything, but like usually you would use multisig for a federation. This has advantages and disadvantages. It's more centralized and less reliable than proof of work. But it also has less cost, it can scale better, you can have faster blocks. And also, it also has a federated two-way peg, which is a two-way peg based on also a script, a multi-sig script. For now, the parent chain must use the same proof of work as Bitcoin, SHA-256. Another cool addition is confidential transactions, which is a change that consists in the amounts being hidden for everyone except the payer and the recipient, obviously. And they also can share the secret with an auditor or whoever they want, but only the people they want to know. And everyone else see the values encrypted, but we can still validate that no money is created or destroyed. It's fancy crypto that does this, invented by Greg Maxwell. And then Andrew Postra used these similar concepts to, in addition to hiding the amounts, we can also hide the asset IDs of because this chain also has multiple assets. People can issue their own assets, and the asset IDs can be hidden, so only the interested parties can see them. A little bit more about confidential assets. So issuers can issue assets, as I have said, and when they do so, they can decide if it's gonna be a fixed amount from the beginning, or perhaps they prefer to have a reissuance token that allows them to create more units in the future. And anybody can burn them by sending to up return, for example, or to any unspendable script. Use cases for this, there are many. Tokenized fiat, anything representing real assets, let's say gold deposits. Other IOUs, doesn't have to be gold or fiat. It can be, I don't know, I owe you a beer on my bar, whatever, vouchers for discounts, many things. Well, and in the future, in theory, you could have a sidechain that is a sidechain to several parent chains, for example, Bitcoin and Litecoin, or you could have several pegs to the same chain. You could have several federations that for all of them for Bitcoin, but different signers or something. And that was Elements. And we're using Elements to build Liquid, which is a product by Blockstream. And what it is, it's a settlement network, initially between exchanges, but all other services could also be functionaries. And this allowed them to fast transfers between the exchanges. And this can improve liquidity in the market because arbiters don't have to wait so long to move their bitcoins from one place to another. It also reduces custodial risk because users can have the liquid coins in their own wallets, and then it's not in the vaults of the exchange. Now there's only the liquid core wallet, but the green address team is working on supporting it too. And well, the code for issuing and transacting multiple assets is there, but it's gonna be disabled in the first version because we want to test more, perhaps clean up some interfaces, and there's also legal challenges that we have to study. And what we serve for our customers, the functionaries, is software, but also the hardware. We ship them boxes with the hardware they need, and also an HSM included in the box that contains the private keys for both signing the blocks and signing the pegouts of the two-way peg. So why do we do this? To have additional liquidity, this reduces volatility risk. So for an arbiter that is moving from one exchange to the other to take advantage of a difference in price between two exchanges, there's a risk that the prices change again while he's waiting. So if he has to wait less, that's better for him. And since we have confidential transactions, these transfers between exchanges can be more private. It also can remove the single point of failure for custodians. Like so I was saying, if you have your coins in an exchange and the exchange get hacked, like it happened with MTGOX, well, that's bad. But if you have it in your liquid wallet, then you should be fine. And in the future, when there's multiple assets, we can do the same for fiat currencies. So that would be also better for liquidity because only Bitcoin is only one part of the trades, right? And once, for example, if one exchange issues a token representing fiat deposits in their exchange, other exchanges could add that asset into their own easily, or perhaps they issue an asset representing deposits in another cryptocurrency, and other exchanges could add that very easily because they already have integrated with Liquid. So that could be another advantage. Well, then when you have several assets, you could trade, instead of using an exchange, you could trade on-chain. I have an example of that at the end if we have time. And then there's more interesting things that could be done, like combining Lightning with not only the Bitcoin chain, but also the Liquid chain, and Lightning could have several assets, but that's more for the future. What are the costs of the Liquid network? For the functionaries and participants, I'll explain the difference between those two later. They pay a monthly fee to us, Blockstream, but this includes support, the hardware, and the upgrades to the software and all that. And then there's network fees, just like in Bitcoin, but they're expected to be low because blocks are not expected to fail. Let's see. And then there's the fees for the transactions in Bitcoin. The pegging transaction, you have to pay fees for that, and the peg out transaction too. So I was saying there's functionaries and participants, and there's also regular users. So anybody can download Liquid Core. Well, not yet, but everybody will be able to. And and you can run Bitcoin Lightning Core, and transfer to other users or doing peg-ins from Bitcoin to Liquid, but you cannot do peg-outs because there's a whitelist for peg-outs. So only the people who pay, the functionaries and the participants, can peg out. And the difference between functionaries and participants is that functionaries sign the blocks and the peg outs, and participants don't do it, but they're also allowed to peg out. So I guess everybody would prefer to be a functionary, but we have a limit in the first version of 15, so the rest of them will have to wait and for now only be participants. The duties of the functionaries are signing blocks, which secures the Liquid network, and enforce the peg-out whitelisting. It's not that in the whitelist are all the addresses. It's some fancy crypto so that you can know if an address belongs to that list without knowing which exchange the address belongs to. A short explanation about how it works, the pegging. So you send a transaction in the Bitcoin chain to a specific address that is the pegging address, and then when there's some confirmations, you can use that as a proof to create the pegging transaction in the Liquid chain. And then for the peg out, you first create a peg transaction on the Liquid chain, and then the watchmen create the transaction in the Bitcoin. The watchmen are the functionaries for the peg out, and they create the peg out transaction in the Bitcoin chain just by looking on the data you have put in the peg out transaction on Liquid. The difference is, again, the blockchain is not operated by miners, it's done by functionaries. Blocks are signed. There's 1 minute blocks. So it's more than 2/3. So if we said it's 15, in the first version, for a block to be valid, you need 11 out of 15 signatures for the block to be valid. And yeah, the most interesting interesting differences, perhaps, it's the confidential transactions and the confidential assets. Well, I have already explained this. So yeah, there's first a transaction in Bitcoin, then wait for confirmations, then the transaction in Liquid, and for the peg out. Yeah, already explained this, sorry. And so how can exchanges integrate with this? They can do many things to integrate. It's up to them. The simplest thing for the user perhaps would be to allow the users to withdraw to another exchange using Liquid, but without the user having a balance for Liquid separated or anything. And it would be very simple. You push the button or whatever, and the exchange deducts the funds from your account, sends them to the other exchange, and when the other exchange, for this you would need to have an account in both. And when the other exchange receives them, it credits them to you in their exchange. But there's more things they could do. They could also allow users to have separate balances for Bitcoin and Liquid Bitcoin, or they could allow anyone to withdraw Liquid coins to their Liquid wallets, or there's a number of things they can do. And this is how it works in more in detail. So that would be the functionary machine, and inside there's like a regular computer, and would be the big box, and the HSM is inside the computer, but it's independent. And these are the processes it would be running. It would run Bitcoin D for validating the Bitcoin chain and being able to look at the peg-ins and peg-outs. Liquid D for also validating the liquid chain. And then there's these two processes, the block signer and the watchman. The block signer is for signing blocks. You coordinate with the other functionaries, and by turns, each block is supposed to be created by one functionary, but sometimes that will fail, and you will go to the next one. And that's the process which does it. And there's another process, watchman, which is similar, but it's for the pegouts. So they look at the pegout transactions in Liquid, and then they create the transaction that it's gonna be the pegout transactions in the Bitcoin chain, and they all sign it for you, so that you can get the funds. Both the Liquid D and the Daemon D connect through Tor, so that functionaries cannot be easily found, because that's a risk. If you identify where the functionaries are, if they had an IP, you could DDoS them or denial of service attack them, or you could even go physically there and try to hack it. So Tor gives us privacy there. And that's it. Questions? Yeah, about the trading in chain. This could be an example. But there's more ways to do it, but the thing is that in the same transaction, you give one thing and you receive the other, and the other party, and vice versa, right? The other party receives what you give and pays what you receive. This would be with Liquid Bitcoin and Silver, for example. Just an example. But questions?
Hi, thanks for the talk. I just have two really quick questions. I heard that you have a round robin system for Liquid for the validators to agree. So I assume you have finality, right? So the question first one is, how do you react to Bitcoin forks? Because 2 blocks is a bit short. You can have a fork, right? And the second one is...
Can you repeat the first question?
So the first question is, how do you react to Bitcoin forks? Because I guess you assume finality in your system, and but then if you build upon some information or some state of Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin
by forks, you mean reorgs or upgrades?
Reorg, whatever.
Well, reorgs, if it was longer than 102 blocks, we would have a problem. But I think that would be a problem for much of the ecosystem, because software is not prepared for such long reorgs. And upgrades, if there's soft forks, we shouldn't have any problem. But the Bitcoin D there can be upgraded too, and the Liquid D can be upgraded as well. So you would upgrade the software, I guess.
Okay. So you mean you wait for 102 Bitcoin blocks?
Yes, you need to. Sorry.
Or was it 2 Bitcoin blocks? I maybe misunderstood.
Oh yeah, 102 confirmations for the pegging transaction before you can create the pegging transaction in Liquid.
Okay, I misread that. And then the second really quick one is Bitcoin allows maximum 20 signatures in a multisig. You have 15 validators at first. You say you'll extend that. I mean, we all agree that 15 may be a bit.
Yeah. So 15 is because we were using P2SH, but with SegWit we should be able to go up to 20, I think.
Nice.
And then to go farther than that, we would need Snore or some kind of solution in Bitcoin that allows you to do bigger multisigs.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. So for transferring bitcoins from one exchange to another, one could use this, but one could also use the Lightning Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, I was
interplay
expecting
on
that
this?
question.
Are they going to be competing technologies, or how do you see it play out?
Yeah, I was expecting that question. Like, if we had Lightning, why do we want Liquid too? I think Lightning is great, but they are different. So, well, first of all, they're compatible between them. You can have Lightning with Liquid, and that's for both, right? You can have Lightning with Liquid. So Lightning is not so good for big transactions because of the routing. You don't have those limitations in Liquid. Well, Lightning is faster than Liquid. Yeah, it has their own, but they both have privacy features. The Liquid have a confidential transaction. Lightning has onion routing. But yeah, the Lightning has some disadvantages too. So I think they are complementary, and we want both, basically.
Thank you. I want to ask you, is it possible for an issuer of confidential assets to produce a proof of the total amount of outstanding confidential assets to the normal users without decreasing the privacy of the users holding on those assets?
So the issuer of an asset to prove what? Sorry?
Can he produce a proof of the total amount of outstanding confidential assets issued by him?
That there's a maximum
like
quantity?
Like a proof of reserve of the assets that he issued.
Yeah, I mean, you can always reveal the secrets, but I don't know if you can do proof of reserve. Perhaps Jonas knows, because if you can do it with crypto some weird way, I don't know. But if you really want to, but you have the option to have a limited quantity of assets from the beginning. So you could say, okay, we will print 1,000 and that's it forever. And if you don't have the reissuance token, nobody can print more. If you have the reissuance token, then nobody knows how many of them are in total because you can reissue more.
Thanks.
No more questions? Oh, yeah.
Just one more question. How restrictive or how easy will it be to access or to transact on Liquid?
How easy? In what sense?
If I understood correctly, you are doing Liquid for inter-exchange. So between parties that have subscribed to the Liquid product. So
yeah, but like I said,
can anyone subscribe? What are the?
Like I said here, regular users that are not subscribers can also transfer between them and can peg in. What they cannot do is peg out. For peg out, they depend on the participants or exchanges. But the rest you can do. I mean, the Liquid Core wallet is just similar to the Bitcoin Core wallet, but the green address one is more like usable for users. So, thank you.